So I'd like to welcome our first speaker here today, and I'll get his bio. This is Curtis Kuttnauer, co-founder and senior partner of Golden Circle Advisors. He's going to be our first speaker. They have offices in both Traverse City and Plymouth. Golden Circle Advisors is a business intermediary and a business brokerage advisory firm specializing in working with small to mid-sized privately held businesses. GCA is focused on working with owners to provide a professional market valuation and to position and market your business for sale. Give it up for Curtis. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. Just to let you know, there is a handout, so the people that always sit in the last rows, we ran out. All of them are up front, and the first two rows in the second tier. So help yourself during it. Be a good reference. Again, I appreciate the opportunity to speak in front of MSTA. You probably may have seen Fred and I in the past present about other things. I'd like to kick it off by two questions. How many people here today are business owners? Okay, probably about 60%. And how many people that didn't raise their hand would like to be a business owner one day? Oh, okay. Today's presentation, in the past, you have seen us present. Most of our presentations to MSTA has been about the timing and the process of selling your business. Today, we put a brand new presentation together. You're the first ones to see it. About the key strategies of how to add value and enhance the value of your businesses. I am going to go through, most of the items on the screens. I'm not going to go into detail on every single one. Your presentation handout is to be a reference that you can take back to your offices and evaluate how you're doing in this. So let's get started. As mentioned, my name is Curtis Kuttnauer. My business partner is sitting back there in a similar shirt. We'll be here the entire session. We're an M&A, mergers and acquisitions advisory firm that have built a niche working in your industry. We've done a lot of work, and you can see probably some recognizable names of businesses that we have assisted in the sale of. So the key strategies that we're going to talk about today about how to increase and enhance the value of your business is broken down in these four main areas: organizational, financial management, market position, and then business management. So let's get into the organizational. The most important person in your business is you, the owner. The key thing I would tell you to add the most value to the business, if there's anything you can do that you get away from me today, is make yourself replaceable. Now that may not sound intuitive, but if you make yourself replaceable where the business can operate without you, you will greatly enhance the value of your business. I'll give you a good example. One of the names on the list was one of the very first companies we dealt with in your industry, Williams Pumping. The new owners, Rodrigo and Lyndon, are back there now. When we first started working with Joe Williams, I remember meeting at his house, and he told me, oh, by the way, I'm going away next week for 3 weeks to Costa Rica. During that entire time when he was away in Costa Rica, he never once called into the office. He felt very comfortable that he had the right leadership in place, that the business would operate without him. That is your goal as a business owner, is to make yourself replaceable. And the way you do that, you build a deep management team working for you. And what you learn to do is delegate as much as possible so that you're not needed for the day-to-day operations. And to do that, you need to develop those people, identify who could be those leaders. Second thing you need to do as a business owner, you should have a succession plan or exit strategy. You should be working on that. Something I've said in past presentations is people spend more time planning their next vacation than they do exiting the most valuable asset that they probably own, their business. So have a succession plan, because not just because you may want to retire, but what happens if you fall ill or worse, die? What happens to the business? who's going to take over the business. So you need to identify and mentor that successor for your business. And please, if any time you have questions, just ask. And then finally, if you own a business and you have a business partner, then I highly encourage you that you have a buy-sell agreement with your partner. And the purpose of a buy-sell agreement is that in case someone says, I'm done, I'm ready to retire, then you know how to handle that, how you're going to value the company to buy out your partner. And in worst case, if something happens to them that they become incapacitated, that they can't run the business with you, then that prompts you to then, okay, then I'm going to buy out your portion, and what the terms are and what the value is. The last thing you want to do is have, if someone dies, end up in probate for the half of your business. That is not good. So, the question is, if you look at yourself and your business, how many of these hats are you doing today? I would assume there's a few of you out here that are probably doing every one of those and then some. So this is a test to get yourself from not making yourself replaceable. Now, the second most important person in your business are your employees. We know how difficult it is today to find and hire people and keep them. The best thing you can do is build a team around you that you're going to retain, and they will be around when you sell the business. Your business will lose value if you cannot convince a buyer that your people are going to stay after post-sales. So it is very important you do that. The ways you could do that is highly recommend that you're doing continual education, like coming to sessions like this. Include more of your employees to come to sessions like this. Make them as knowledgeable as possible in the business by doing continual education. The other thing is, I highly recommend that you're paying all your employees very competitive rates. I'm not saying they have to be the top of the industry, but the last thing you want to do is have someone come to you and say, oh, by the way, the guy now on the street, AB Septic, has said, I'm going to pay you $1 an hour, and they move. So you want to have other reasons why they're there, but you want to offer them competitive compensation. And then also encourage them, as they know their business probably as well as you do in the areas they're responsible, is encourage them to be innovative as much as possible. And when I say innovative, coming up with ways that you're more productive, operational efficiency, and be willing to give them a bonus for helping you. Now, I'm not saying you should pay for bad ideas, but you should pay for good ideas. And that will get them to then hopefully come up with additional ideas to improve your business. Then equip your customer-facing positions with good customer service skills. One of our clients in the past, every Monday morning, they had a team meeting of all the employees. And during that team meeting, the owner brought in breakfast for 45 minutes. He would do some type of training on how to give better customer service. May sound like a waste, but actually their employees really got into it. Now for your customers, your employees that are taking orders, this was one of the sessions he taught them on and repeated it many times, is when someone calls up and say, hey, how much is that portable for a monthly rental? Well, he trained his order takers to turn it around. Well, what are you looking for? What's your needs? How are you going to use it? What type of response do you need? And during that conversation, price didn't make a difference at the very end. Without even ever telling them how much it cost for that rental, they said, well, put me down. Higher profits, making you more valuable. Also, highly encourage for your people that are in the field, your technicians doing this septic tanks, how many times, I know I do this when they come to our house, is I out there, first question, so how's it looking? I don't know much about it internally, but this is a great opportunity for them to say, well, are you doing any regular treatments on your septic system? This is a great opportunity to upsell, to say, why don't you get into our maintenance program? Let me sell you the chemicals on a periodic basis. Pure profit. Be willing to pay those employees some type of spiff. for helping make you more profitable. And then another one is cross-train all your employees. Several of our clients own treatment facilities. In one of our clients, there was one person in that company that knew how to manage the treatment facility, run the entire process. Well, that's a serious dependency that they've built, because what happens to that person? That person could easily say, well, I'm going to leave you unless you give me another 10 bucks, whatever. What you want to do is cross-train all your employees on the various functions of the business so that, number one, people go on vacation, like the plant manager, and you're not held hostage to any one employee. Next one is advisors. This chart you probably have seen in our other presentations. Several of these things you should be dealing with at all times, no matter where you are in the process of whether or not you're thinking about selling the business. When you're getting to the point where you want to sell your business, the two most important people, other than Fred and I, number one is a very competent, experienced attorney that has done business transitions before, meaning that they've been involved in the sale of businesses. Same thing with your CPA. It's a very different skill than doing your annual bookkeeping or doing your tax returns. It's a whole different skill set in regards to helping you make sure you make the right decisions when it comes to selling your business and having the right agreement in front of you. I use the analogy is you have to have heart surgery. Are you going to go to a cardiologist or a general surgeon? I know which one I'll choose. Same thing here. And your attorney, if they don't know much about it, they should not be upset that you seek other advice. Financial management. This is probably the area that you probably should be most interested in personally, is profitability is king. My father always said cash is king. That comes up next slide. But profitability is by far, should be your biggest focus in managing your business. Manage to profitability over revenue growth. And the reason I say that is, a lot of people want to say, oh, I got the biggest company, we're doing $10 million in sales or whatever. If I take two companies and compare them, both companies are making $200,000 a year. That's their net income, whatever term of profitability you want to say. And you compare two companies doing $2 million in sales, one doing $5 million and one doing $10 million. Which one is more valuable? No, it is not. They're really both worth the same amount of money because businesses are valued on profitability. We've all heard the term multiples of income, multiples of EBITDA, if you remember that term, earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, amortization, multiples of SDE, seller's discretionary. There's a whole bunch of ways to measure profitability, but the key thing is, if I personally, in that example, $200,000, a company doing $5 million versus $10 million, personally, I would choose the one doing $5 million, as the other person spoke out. They're worth the same, but given the choice, I would be more interested in the one doing less revenue at a higher profit margin because you have more room to wiggle if things go south. You have a higher profit margin. Second thing is, when you look at a measure of success, again, continuing, your measure of success should be based upon profitability rather than the revenue. And then finally, which is a tie into the next chart, is focus on profitability all the time over tax avoidance. No one likes to pay taxes, but my personal opinion is if you're paying taxes, it means you're doing something right. So be willing to pay the tax man something. Now, cash handling. I won't ask any questions of polls. How many people here happen to take cash and somehow it never shows up in your financial systems? That's perfectly happened. Fred and I do not work for the IRS. But it makes a difference when it comes time when you're ready to sell the business. I'm going to do an example. Let's say you're in the 30% tax bracket, and in our industry, in your industry, our average multiple of EBITDA, earnings before interest, taxes, and depreciation, we find is 4.86, almost 4.9 times earnings. So if you made $100,000, your company's worth almost 5 times, 500,000. So let's look at an example, because no one likes to pay taxes. Let's say you have an opportunity, because I know there are people here that I've seen people in excess to $200,000 of cash, and somehow it never hits the books. But when it comes time to sell, they've lost value in their business. And I'll go through the example. Let's say you have $100,000 of unreported income. You did that to avoid paying 30% in taxes, so you saved yourself $30,000. Let's say you did this for 3 years. You saved yourself $90,000, almost $100,000. But let's say you're ready to sell. Well, I said that 4.86 times of profit. You can't show a profit of $100,000, so that you just lost almost $500,000 of business value that someone would be willing to pay your business to save $90,000. I'm not necessarily an investment pro. That's a pretty bad investment. So you basically left a net of $400,000 that I could not assess a value to your business. I'm certified to do business valuations, and I have to use tax returns as the basis for valuing a business. Let me move over here. Then it comes down to financial reporting. I highly encourage you to take advantage of some type of financial management software. I would say most of you in the room are using QuickBooks. Occasionally I see somebody using Peachtree or Sage. Whichever one you have, use it to the fullest. I don't recommend, because we use QuickBooks more, that you change out. If there's a reason, go ahead, but make sure you're using it to the full maximum. Then maintain meticulous records of all your income and your expenses. Put everything into QuickBooks or whatever. And one of the benefits of doing that, if you're using QuickBooks well, when it comes down to right now, tax time, your CPAs are saying, hey, can you get me your stuff? I want to, everybody wants to delay. There's a benefit to being early, especially if you're thinking about selling, because to sell your business, the banker that's going to be financing this thing, they will require the most recent tax return. So they will be waiting to you provide that before they can approve a loan. So maintain good records to get tax returns. And finally, using all this data, you can develop forecasts, look at how you manage your business, being able to make what I call data-driven decisions. Using the data that you have gathered is make it to manage your business better. Make sense? Okay. Take advantage of the power. A couple of my favorite, I'm a Star Trek guy. So the other thing is, I know, and I see several people in the audience that are in this situation today. They're in the septic pumping business, but they also are into other businesses. They do septic pumping, they do portables. Most likely, if you're doing septic tanks, and if you own an excavator, you're probably doing installation and repair work, so you're in the excavation business as well. And then, if you're putting in new septic tanks, well, I know some of you actually own your own gravel centers, gravel pits, and for sand and stone. And then, some of you are actually venturing into newer areas. The one I see most synergistic to your business is the roll-off trailer business, very similar to renting portables. So if you are one of these companies that have multiple lines of business, I will encourage you to make sure you're tracking the expenses and the income to each of those separate businesses. To the point, the best thing I could recommend to you is break them up into separate legal entities, file a separate tax return for each one. The reason being is most of the people that are doing all or some of these, they have come to us and say, hey, I really want to get rid of the excavation business. I'm just tired of too much work, want to get out of it. The problem is if you are all managing it in one company, then how can you sell one piece if you can't identify all the revenue and all the unique expenses for each one? Now, if you don't take my recommendation of putting it in separate legal entities, then take advantage of what the software allows you to do is create divisions. In QuickBooks, they're called classes. Create a different class for each of the divisions and manage all the revenue and all the expenses associated with it. Now, there are going to be times that you share, let's say you only have one person doing accounts payable and accounts receivable, then you have to allocate their expenses, their payroll, across the different divisions in some type of logical allocation. Likewise, you got some employees that will do a little bit of both. You want to track their hours for each of those businesses. Does it make sense? Because if you come to the point where I want to make my life easier, so I'm going to get rid of a couple pieces of my business, this is the only way you're going to get number with the most money for it, because I guarantee if you're not doing that, the bank is going to be very conservative in what they would be willing to finance because you can't show the cash flow associated with each line of business. Now, this is one of my favorite topics is personal expenses. How many, no, I won't ask the question. Everybody uses their business as a business owner as their personal piggy bank. And that's perfectly fine. Again, we don't work for the IRS, and it's expected. Now, I would tell you we have seen extremes. We have some customers that almost zero personal expenses go through the business. It's very clean. To the point that we have another client, won't mention who it is, that the business is paying for their condo in Florida, and by the way, last year just bought it a boat, and it all came out of the business. I don't highly recommend that. You know, those become questionable expenses, but people do it. And when it comes time to valuing your company, there's a process we call recasting or financial adjustments. And we take those legitimate personal expenses, like I'm paying for my kids' cell phones, I'm paying for their insurance, I'm giving my daughter a small salary, but she's not doing anything for it. I'm paying for my personal health insurance, paying for the car expenses, all those things, you name it. Every one of those expenses get added back to your profitability, so they get what we call add backs or recasting. All those personal expenses can be added back to enhance your profitability, but you have to be able to identify them, and you have to be able to, some banks will ask you, can I see the receipts for those expenses? And if you can show them the receipt, they will honor that, they will allow you to add that back. The more, when you don't have the documentation, that's when it becomes more difficult for the bank to justify adding that back. So use your accounting software, put all your personal expenses in, create a report that personal expenses, and it shoots out everything that was done personal. That'd be great. My old CPA, he's the reason why he's my old CPA, used to have an expression, it's okay to be a pig, but when you become a hog, you get slaughtered. So be careful there. Then let's talk about the assets in your business. When you value a business, your assets, the assets that were required to generate that revenue and that profitability, those assets are included into the purchase price of the business. A lot of people think, oh, here's the value of my business, X, and oh, I own all this assets, I add that on top of it. No. The reason is you have to provide, as part of the sale of your business, all the assets necessary to generate that income and revenue. So I encourage you, as part of this process, is maintain a good list of all the assets the business owns. And keep a list with its fair market value updated regularly, annually ideally. And when I say fair market value, I'm not talking about what's on your books because most likely it's been fully depreciated. I'm not talking about what you paid for it. I don't care. I don't want the value of fire sale, going out of business sale. It's what if you bought that pumper truck and it's 10 years old, how much can I go put it in Pumper Magazine and get for it? That's the fair market value. So when you take all your assets, have an associated value for it. The other thing is if you have assets that are not being used, take it out of your graveyard, that you're sitting on your property and sell them. They're worth more today than they are tomorrow, so go ahead and sell it today. Why keep it? The other thing is avoid buying new shiny toys, as you're thinking about selling your business. I can't tell you how many times I've seen and talked to customers that they had a very good year, and your CPA may have done this to you last year, and said, hey, you're making so much money, go buy a new truck to reduce paying taxes. That is one of the worst. I personally think that should be a malpractice. The reason is you're being advised just to save some money on taxes is to go buy an asset that will depreciate in value. That's why we have depreciation. It's going to go down in value every year. Rather, pay the tax associated with your profits. Do whatever you can to minimize it and delay it as long as possible. But go ahead and then use that money, net after taxes, and go invest it in something else, whether you want to invest in your business or invest it personally. Take the profit, pay the taxes, and put it into Apple stock. But just buying assets to reduce your taxes is a very poor decision. And finally, is identify those assets that you want to sell, that you do not want to sell with the business. Again, you have to include all the assets necessary to generate that income. But if there's assets that aren't needed, you got out of the excavation business, so I don't really need that, either sell it or say, I want to use it for my home and my farm. Fine. Those don't have to be included, even though the business owners, that doesn't have to be included in the sale because it's not needed. We have another story is we have one of our good clients in the past. When we took on them as a listing, he told us, oh, by the way, I have a $250,000 brand new over-engineered pumper truck on order. I said, well, do you need it? No, but I'm going to use it to replace my 5-year-old one. Now, I know many of you probably say 5 years old, that's new to me. And I said, so you don't need it, so why are you getting it? So I want it. And again, his CPA did the same type of thing, say, hey, you're making too much money, let's go buy a $250,000 truck. Fortunately, in this particular case, is the people that bought it actually wanted, that new truck because they're backlog, and so they bought, the old truck and the new truck, and we bumped up the price for the new truck to be what it was worth. But a lot of times when you don't have that luxury, is just avoid doing that if you can, if you're looking at selling, especially if you don't need it. Okay, moving on to the next topic, market position. Now, you would have thought that customers were like the number one important thing for value for your business. It's very important. I still say you, the business owner, is the most valuable. But customers, you want to do everything you can to establish customer loyalty. Studies have shown it takes 7 times more money to capture a new client versus maintaining an existing one. So you want to do whatever you can to make your existing customers happy. The other thing that you want to do is avoid high dependency on a few customers or one customer. You want to avoid the situation where you have a handful of customers making up 80% of your business or one customer making up 20% of your business. The reason being is when you go and value the business and when people are looking at financing it, they will see that as risk. Because what happens if I lose that one customer that's doing 20% of my business? You're a little bit held hostage. So they're going to put a risk associated with that. So do whatever you can to diversify your client base. And finally is, everybody likes to take a sale. And I think probably most of you are smart enough that if someone calls you up and said, they're 60 miles away, you have no customers on that way, and they want their tank pumped, and you're pretty busy. It's probably not worth taking that one customer. Your margins are going to be way down because of the fuel costs, and is it worth it? So occasionally, the best decision is to say no. So you have to evaluate that yourself. I'll read this if you can't see it. We're a disruptive, best-in-class business, adding value to our customers, and we're on the same page with them as well. As we are a thought leader, our core competency is laser focused on moving the needle and squaring the circle with synergy while thinking outside the box. Wow, what's your business? Porta potties are us. I saw this, I had to use it, whether or not it's funny or not. But. Okay, product and services. You want to make sure that you're leveraging whatever superior products and services that gives you the pricing advantages and helps you with customer loyalty. As a business, you want to create a distinct identity for your business that sets you apart from your competition. Being known as the cleanest portables. I know there are, I know there are a few companies that can't really say that. They don't use enough blue, especially in the winter. But whatever you can do is separate yourself from your competition. And then finally, whatever you can do to develop any proprietary products and services, or when I say proprietary, I mean it'd be great if you're the only one in the world that can do it, but things that aren't being done readily available within your competitive landscape that you operate. Whether that's getting into, if you're in Septic, getting in portables, let's say we get into drain cleaning, we get into inspections, you name it, is whatever you can do that makes sense for your business to add additional product and services that will differentiate you from the competition. And then we get into the sales, marketing, and branding. A lot of people get these, they're all about the same thing. There is nuances between this, but you want to enhance your strategy, your marketing strategy, to include advertising, internet presence, brand awareness, public relations, PR. You want to do all these type of things to promote your business. You want to also have a very clear and consistent message that in all those forms of advertising and branding and PR, you want to have a consistent message that's always through it. So they can, when they think about you, they think about that idea. I also will warn you, do not spend a whole bunch of money on SEO, search engine optimization, or Yellow Pages. I have not, I know people still are doing Yellow Pages. I have not seen a big return on investment in there. And a lot of people, if you have a website, you're getting emails constantly, hey, I can get more people to your website by paying us thousands of dollars in SEO. Doing some SEO probably makes sense. Doing a whole bunch probably does not. So you can get sucked into long-term contracts both with Yellow Pages and SEO, and the return is hard to determine. So be careful there. The other thing is, I highly recommend that everybody here should have their own internet presence. I'm not talking about a Facebook page. That is not a professional website. That is a Facebook page. You want to have your own presence on the web, other than Facebook. This is how people find you, number one. Number two is when they come to an evaluation of calling this company that has a Facebook page and this one has a true website, which one will they have more credibility with is the one that has a professional website. It's your professional business card. You don't have to get really fancy about it. It won't cost you thousands and thousands of dollars. You can get them built pretty easily. You can probably do it yourself, but just to have that presence. And then how many times, and I know there's people out here that you have your own website, but your email that you use is your Yahoo account or your AOL or Netscape. And yes, that people still use those. I highly recommend if you have a domain and you have a website, everybody in your business should use Joe at ABC Septic. Not, I would change everybody's name, but the key thing is it doesn't cost you really anything, and it makes you more professional than saying, ABC Septic at Gmail or, Curtis at Gmail, rather than Curtis at Golden Circle. Okay? And then finally, if you're getting to the point where you're thinking about selling your business, do not stop marketing. Do not cut off all your advertising budget and all that. Keep that going because number one, you don't know how long it's going to take to sell, and the last thing you want to do is cut those costs and then start seeing your sales go down a little bit. No one wants to see sales go down. Competition. know and articulate your competitive advantages against your competitors. If you're lucky enough to do land application of Part 117, that is a competitive advantage for you, especially against people that can do it. I live in the Traverse City area, and I don't know if the prices are the same, but last time I heard it was at least 18 cents a gallon to dispose of for someone that has to take it to the municipality. I know I've done the analysis, it costs about 2.5 cents a gallon to dispose it through land application. For you that can do land application, that is a competitive advantage and you're making money because the disposal fee that you're charging is actually a profit center. Because if it's costing you 2.5 cents and you're matching it at 18 cents, or if you want to lower it and say, I charge you 15 cents, which is a savings for your customer, but you're still making a load of money on there. So take advantage of that. And if you're thinking about, hey, should I grow my business and maybe I should buy something? Well, if you're not doing land application and there's somebody that's available for land application, that would be probably a pretty good investment. Like I said, be known for the cleanest portables or most responsive in in meeting your client requirements. Learn from your competitors and the industry. And if you find one of your competitors that is doing something that has a really good idea, wow, well, steal it. Nothing stops you from taking good ideas from somebody else. And then we recommend that every so often you may want to do what we call SWOT analysis. Anybody heard of SWOT? It stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunity, and threats. Take 4 pieces of paper, put those words on the top of the page, and write down what are your strengths that you see versus competition. What are your weaknesses associated compared to competition? What are the opportunities that you can see that you can take advantage of to enhance your business going forward? And what do you see the threats? And every so often, take those paper and say, has anything changed? It helps you manage your business more effectively. Final topic, I believe. Business management. This is where we get a lot of snoozes. How many people here have a business plan? I'm too busy operating my business. How can I plan for my business? You want to change that around. We really think that all businesses should have a 1, 3, 5-year operational and financial plans of setting out goals for your business, and then how you expect to achieve those goals. If you are going through this process, share it with all your employees. Share how you plan on growing the business, how you're going to make yourself better. Get your employees to buy in, because your employees are key for your success. So if they say, hey, yeah, let's help them achieve this, and who knows, maybe you'll be willing to share some of the wealth of that. In my old business, I set a goal every year. We want to do X in revenue this year. Yes, I used revenue in this particular case rather than profit, because I didn't want to tell my people what my profit is. And I said, if we achieve this goal, I'm taking everybody to Mexico, or I'm taking everybody on a cruise. Guess what? People had a lot of buy-in, and they were really, what can we get done over the line before December 31st? So those type of ideas. But you want to make sure that these growth and these forecasts are achievable, that they're realistic based upon what is realistically you can do, how's the industry doing. And the other thing is developing a growth plan. What do you want to do? One of the things we go through with our clients when they're ready to sell, and people wonder, why are you asking me to do this? We will help you put together what we call a growth plan that the next owner can implement. And when I say, how can we do that? Well, let's say you've been doing this for 30 years, and you want to sell your business. Say, okay, assume you were 20 years younger with all the knowledge you have today, and you want to double your business. How would you go about doing it? Now, I know you don't want to do it because you don't want to invest another 20 years, but what can you do to grow the business and double it? And let's put the different line items, different ideas. The reason why we recommend doing that is that, going back to the value in your business, no one's going to pay you a higher dollar for something you've never achieved. But if they're realistic plans that are achievable and doable, businesses are worth in a range of value. So everybody's going to try to lowball you, but it's usually within a reasonable range. If you can show them a growth plan, this is how you could double your business, guess what? They may be willing to pay you the higher amount of what the business is worth versus trying to get the lowest, because you're showing them a plan for growth. People buy a company not just to have it be the same, just like you buy a stock. You're buying it, you're investing it that you hope to appreciate. This is the way they can grow value in their business, by having that growth plan. And who better to help them do it is the people that know the business the best. Yeah, working on a business plan, it's gonna rock. Okay, talking about valuation, I've mentioned it multiple times. I do highly recommend that you get a valuation and appraisal done on a regular basis, both for your business and any real estate associated with the business. The reason being is that you may be surprised that one day someone knocks on your door and says, hey, I want to buy you. Okay, great. And they come up, here's a price. And you go, wow, you're offering me $1 million? I'll take it. If you don't have an idea of what your business is really worth, then how do you know the price that he's offering you is going to be a good price? The likelihood is it's going to be a low price. So by making sure that you have a good knowledge of what your business is worth and what the associated real estate would be worth, fair market value, is important. I can give you multiple examples. I'll give you a couple of them. We had one client where we met with the owners by the person that introduced us to them, and at lunch they said, if you get us $1 million, we'll kiss you, we'll love you. We sold that business for $2.7 million. True case. Another case, even bigger, is we had a client that was not always the most pleasant person to deal with, but he told us, I want $3 million for the business, and if you get me that, we'll sell it. Well, we sold it for $5.5 million. So if you are in the process and you think you're thinking about selling, the likelihood is you're going to undervalue your business significantly. If I ask you how much is your business worth when you're enjoying it, you're actively working it, most likely you'll overvalue the business then. But when you get closer to wanting to be done, it's amazing how that value changes. Now it comes down to, when is a good time to sell my business? I think there are 6 major factors in determining, is this the right time to sell? Number 1, how is your company doing? Has your sales been going up every year? Has your profit been going up every year? Or are you on a downslope that this has been a challenge? If you have multiple years downward slope, it's like catching a falling knife. No one wants to do it. So the best time to think about selling your business is when things are on the upswing. Second thing is, how's your industry doing? One nice thing about your particular industry, it is fairly recession-proof, especially the pumping side, because people have to pump their tank. Whether it's a bad economy or a good economy, they may delay it a year. Some of them may then suffer the consequences of delaying it a year if it's an old septic system. So that's really good. So there's really always a good time in your industry to sell the business. You're pretty safe. The other thing is economic condition. How is the economy as a whole? The good news is I think we have avoided a recession. We have probably achieved our first or second soft landing in the history of this country. We didn't have a recession. It's hard to have a recession when you can't find employees for the jobs that are open, for the millions of jobs that are open. So overall, things are good. But we all are complaining about high interest rates. Let me set some expectation. The interest rates we have today are actually on the low side of historical norms. There are people here in this audience, baby boomers like myself, that their first mortgage may have been 18% or higher. So when you compare a mortgage rate of 7%, and I think it's gone below 7 now, compared to what it was before, these are still relatively historical. We just got used to 0% interest. We got fat, dumb, and happy with these low interest rates. The good news is that we're heading down. We've had 11 increases by the Fed in 16 months, and the Fed has more or less said they expect to have 3 declines this year, most likely 25 basis points, quarter point, 3 times this year. It probably won't happen until probably closer to the second half of the year for us to see it. But I don't think that we'll be seeing any more increased interest rates. So that's important for people buying a business and to get financing. And then you have to look at yourself, where are you in your life? Is your business your personal identity? Where you can't imagine yourself not doing your job. And so you want to really do some self-assessment to make sure, is this the right time to sell? Do I have hobbies? What will I do? Will you be sitting at the kitchen table with your wife pulling her hair out because you don't know what to do? So it's a personal decision on timing to sell your business. And finally is your financial position. Are you expecting to sell your business and be able to retire? Well, working with your financial advisor and doing some analysis of knowing, since you know what your business is worth and what your real estate's worth, they can help you say, I can afford to retire. Or maybe you want to do something different and you want another 20 years of working, but you want to do something other than owning a septic company. So those are personal decisions. Then, who do you sell your business to? There are typically 2 types of buyers. There's a strategic buyer and a financial buyer. Given the choice, you want to sell to a strategic a buyer. And the reason why I say strategic, a strategic buyer is someone that's in your industry today, your competitor that wants to grow and buy you out, or somebody that's, you're in the septic business and you're doing portables, and the roll-off trailer guy down the street says, I want to expand my business. Synergistic. They view your business as more valuable to them to buy than letting somebody else buy you and be a competitor to them. So they'll pay you the top dollar. Financial buyers are just what it sounds like. They're financial buyers. They want a deal. We probably have all heard the term private equity firms. Fortunately, in the Midwest and in Michigan, we really haven't seen many private equity firms getting into this industry in the Midwest that much. If you go to the 2 coasts, there are a couple private equity firms that are big time. They're buying up as many people as they can. If we have an opportunity that there's a private equity company that's interested in the state of Michigan, they will be looking for one of the larger pumpers, largest portable companies, to be what they call their foundation, their platform. They use the term platform. They would be willing to pay top dollar to have that larger platform company that they can then use to go out and buy smaller ones around it. You want to be the platform, not one of the smaller ones around it, because the smaller ones they're not going to pay top dollar for because they don't have to. Operational efficiency. This section is a lot more boring, I think, but no one ever wants to talk about policy and procedure manuals and handbook manuals. I will tell you, you may not think that adds value to your business, but when you are selling your business, you have a buyer, there's a process we call going through due diligence. It's a in-deep analysis of every facet of your business. And some of the key questions I'll ask, can you show me your policy and procedures manual? These are the things that describe how do you run each segment of your business. How do you take orders? How do you enter things in your computer system? Every aspect of your business, they want to see policies and procedures. Same thing, they want to say handbook, employee handbook. What's expected of your employees? What are your benefits? All these things. Highly recommend that over time, you don't have to go do it in one weekend, do these things, but over time you want to have a plan that you start documenting all the facets of your business before you're ready to sell. Also, leverage technology wherever you can. are you using route scheduling software? You will save a lot of money. Yes, it's going to cost you something up front, but it's going to save you money in efficiency of your employees and fuel and wear and tear on your vehicles. So using the technology to help you plan your routes, very beneficial. GPS tracking where your trucks are, and a lot of these systems, besides knowing where your vehicles are, it will tell you which of your technicians are really hard on those brakes. And you can go have a conversation because why am I replacing these brakes every so often? You know, they should last a lot longer. It's because they have a heavy foot. And you can see whether or not they're speeding and things like that. So encourage you to use that type of technology. I mentioned accounting software. The other thing is, you know, how many of you are using tablets in the trucks where, you know, when you're at a client, get the money right away. You know, if they're giving cash, great, but here, let me take your credit card here now, get it done with. Paperless environment. You don't have to be sending out invoices. So, or, you know, and if you do your credit card electronically, it saves you, if you have card present, it's going to save you money on fees with the merchant fees. You've heard me say a little bit about, you know, evaluate whatever products and services that add to your bottom line. And finally, eliminate any dependencies that you have from a vendor. Now, fortunately in this industry, there's probably not a, you know, other than, you know, municipality taking your haul there, but like the toilet paper and the blue and the cleaning solution, you know, some industries we work with, supply chain has been a big hindrance. So if you are reliant on one vendor, look for a second vendor to have as a backup. And then finally is if you have any outstanding issues, whether it's litigation, someone suing you, you have an insurance claim, environmental concerns, zoning, licensing, permits, OSHA, whatever the case is, if you have any of these issues and you're thinking about selling them, get those things resolved before you sell the business, because that's just going to be a red flag that people will then be worried about. Gesundheit. Okay, the very last page in the handout is a form. If you're interested in, you know, the handout's a great reference for you to use. I've created a handbook that goes through this in an organized fashion, and I've actually developed an assessment tool using Excel that you can go back to your offices and do a self-assessment, and will tell you how I would think you are relative to, are you doing a lot of things to add value to your business? The higher the score, the more accomplished you are in achieving these things to get the best value for your book. So if you're interested in us emailing this to you, just fill it out, leave it at our booth back there, or hand it to Fred or I, and we'll get that off to you in the email. So that is all I have. Any questions? You've been quiet. Okay, oh yes.
You had mentioned when you're running your business, you thought you would overestimate the value of your business. Now when you go to sell, things are going to change. You're going to underestimate the value of business. Why do you say that?
Just from our experience, when we talk to people that are, I'll repeat the question. The question is, why did I say that people that aren't looking at selling a business, they seem to overvalue the business, and when you're ready to sell, they seem to be undervaluing it? Our experience has been just that. If I talk to somebody that has no interest in selling their business, and they tell me how much they're making, and then I say, well, what do you think the business is worth? When they're not motivated to sell the business, they'll just have this unrealistic expectation that business is worth so much. You know, it's worth $5 million, you know, but you only made, you know, $800,000. Ain't going to be worth that much money. But when I talk to somebody that they're motivated, they're interested in selling, they become much more realistic on what they think the business is worth, to the point where they're almost giving away the business in a lot of cases because they're just, I'm done. I want to be done. So you get me this and I'll be happy. Well, I'd rather get you this and that too. That's just been our experience. And I would say almost 90% of the people in that latter bucket, people motivated to sell, are in a seriously undervalue the business. That's just been our experience. Any other questions? Yes. The comment here was that interest rates right now are actually, pretty much normal when you look at the long term. We've just gotten so used to, before COVID and then during COVID, when the Fed was throwing all this money into the economy, PPP funds, ERC funds and things like that, that many of you have taken advantage of. Where we have right now, historically, interest rates are actually pretty good. We just prefer the lower interest rates of the past.
2-3%, which realistically they've never really been that.
Right. When you were getting loans, home loans at 2 to 3%, thank God that many of us took advantage.
1967, she paid 4 point some %.
Yep. Any other questions I can answer? If not, I'll let you go to the next one. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Well, like I said, Fred and I will be here all the sessions.